Hey folks, this is Thursday, July 30th, 2020. Larry's with us, so let her rip, Larry.
All right, thank you. There's been quite a bit of commotion about President Trump and a few of his tweets of late. Now, you will notice that he is gradually, this I know about because I was there before I wasn't there. You'll notice he's starting to talk about the direct mail voting and that this could be one of the most corrupt elections ever. And he should be, I don't know if he's done it yet, but he will soon, if not now, he will soon be suggesting that with the virus and everything in such a national state of disarray, that we might be in a position where we need to look at delaying the election. Both of these, folks, both of these are good. Number one, proactively towards election fraud, which I've told y'all they're working feverishly to be able to defend against. It's best to start now talking about this election fraud, the potential for election fraud. Do it now so that people are aware that he and his people are seriously, earnestly looking at it. And that will just make it harder, guys, for the Democrats to be able to cheat, because they're going to know starting today or whenever he started letting it out, they're going to know that he and his people are addressing it and looking at it now.
He's been tweeting about it for probably a month already, Larry.
Good. Well, that's what we want. That's on schedule for what he needs to do.
Now, hang on one sec. I saw a news clip yesterday. Don't know what channel Mom was watching, but it showed somebody who took a bunch of ballots by mail, put them in the mailbox, went to the post office where they were supposed to get to for the Board of Elections, just trying to verify, and they were not being sent through.
Right. Well, that's going to be the challenge with any time you do mail-in ballots. Now, I'm perfectly 100% for paper ballots, 100% for that. Mail-in ballots, now that's a different horse totally. I'm not comfortable with that.
When I did an absentee ballot, when I was working the election, because I was working in a different precinct, I went straight to the Board of Elections and handed it directly to, but I have no way of knowing if it was ever counted.
Right. Well, this is all the stuff that has got to be tested, looked at, tested again, looked at again. And they're starting it now, which is good. As a matter of fact, they have run a couple of tests from different parts of the country. And, as I was told, better than half of them went through.
Only half?
But the percentage that did not go through, let's say it was 40%, I don't know, but let's say it's 60% went through and 40% got screwed up. That 40% will literally make it impossible for him to win the election. So anyway, they're on it, they're addressing it, and they're doing what they should do, which is bring it up now, like I say, proactively, get it out there, make the media know the potential's there, and hopefully let the general public know the potential is there. And then as we get closer to election day, you have to excuse Rosie. She sees something out front. As we get closer to election day, it may just be that we have to do something else. Something else. Now, what is that something else? That runs anywhere from, paper ballot at your voting precinct. That's one thing. Then, of course, you've always got the problem with them counting them, but that can be corrected or that can be handled. But, from paper ballot at the voting precinct to a myriad of other things in between. So, this is good. Now, I've also heard, all of these pundits come on and, they say this is a sign of how nervous his campaign is that he has lost power or lost his voters. That is not true in any way, shape, or form. President Trump and his campaign people, I can tell you with absolute certainty that he and his campaign staff are very, very comfortable with where they stand in the market today. You got it?
Yep.
Don't believe the polling data that you're receiving today. And I know it's hard. Oh, God, I know it's hard. It's even hard for me when, especially when I hear like Fox and Joe Schmo Polling Institution conducted a poll, so they'll call it a Fox News poll. No, that's not true. Fox News may have drafted the questions, but they didn't make the calls. Somebody else made the calls, and it's that group that's making the calls that can skew the results big time. And then if it's an NBC and somebody in New York Times poll, well, they can twiddle with the questions and the calls. So watch out about having any faith at all into these polls. Now, President Trump, so that y'all know, which is the case that would surmise in any national race, President Trump has his people, and they are conducting polls as such so that they know where they stand in reality, so that they can better tune their message to help fit what the people out here want to hear. But those polls, that's for them. We don't get to hear about them. But if those were showing some movement for Biden over him, they would be doing something different, and they're not, so don't worry about it. Next question is, in all honesty, what is this virus doing to President Trump's re-election status? All right, guys, let me tell you. This virus and the way it has disrupted this nation, it's affecting all of us in some way, some more directly, some less direct, but this virus is affecting all of us. So, too, is it affecting President Trump and his election status. You got it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that mean he's going to lose? No. But the point to it is, tell me anything anybody else that would be president would be able to do that is not being done right now. He could not single-handedly as president. He could not stop this virus from coming to America. He couldn't stop it. Once he started seeing some of the results, he was being told by some of his brilliant doctor people counseling him, about half of them were saying, don't worry about it. It's going to be just like the flu. It's going to hurt him. It is. But the way he will be soon addressing that is, okay, Mr. Biden, you want to be president? How are you going to handle it? What would you do different? And even giving Biden the benefit of hindsight being 2020, there's nothing he can say. There's nothing anybody can say. It's devastating. My God, it's killed 150,000 Americans. He will survive it. And as soon as he can get Biden in the arena, this whole picture's going to change. Right now, Biden, if you want to know somebody is scared, it's Joe Biden. He's not going to get in the ring. He's not wanting in the ring any 1 second before he just has to. He's not going to. He doesn't want to. He may not be the brightest tool in the chest, but he's not completely an idiot. He knows he will have trouble one-on-one meeting and dealing with President Trump, say in a debate. But he also knows he's going to have trouble with Trump just in the open market. So don't worry, not yet. I'll tell you when it's time to worry. What I will say to you now, what I ask of you now, what I'm begging you now, for the sake of my country and my grandbaby's future, keep your eye on the ball. Stay focused on what you know to do. Okay, Mary Ellen, you got to talk to everybody. I have to call you right back. The doctor's calling, so I'll call you right back.
Okay. Man, he said something that he'll tell us what we say. One thing he said is talk about paper ballot vote at the precinct. They may tell you they don't have paper ballots, but they are required by law to have paper ballots. It's just like the runaround we're getting with the masks and stuff nowadays. I mean, if you stand your ground, legally, they have to have paper ballots at the precinct. They have to have paper in case the electricity goes out. They have to have paper. I think I did, Jimmy. Yeah, it's on there. Jimmy, you asked about Hillary. Yeah, I have that written down. They have to have paper for anybody who's disabled who cannot reach the machines because of their wheelchair being too low or something if they don't have accommodation. So, and Mimi, you're right. Our superpower is prayer. And Jimmy, I've got quite a few questions before you because a bunch of them came in before the show, before we started. So, September is going to be an interesting month from what I hear people saying. And I'm not just talking about David Coverstone and his prophecies, but just, the things that you see are coming, like Larry said, this asteroid coming by 600 miles from Earth. It's not that far given how big it is. So here's Larry's back. Okay, you're back.
And guess what, folks? For the first time in years, blood test results are back and they're normal.
My jaw's dropping, Larry. That is so phenomenal. That's a long time. Congratulations.
It's been a long time coming, and we got there the hard way, but keep your fingers crossed, keep your prayers going. And so anyway, it's good news. Good news. Not running from the doctors now. Good news. All right, so with all that I said, let's open it up, Mary Ellen, because until we get closer to the time that we activate, it's more important to find out what the people are thinking, what they want to know, etc., than for me to just sit and talk.
Yeah, you heard from Gloria a couple days ago through PayPal, I think, and with Jason, and she said that she's going to be a poll watcher. So Larry will be getting into that as we get closer to the election, and so that is. I'm glad to see Gloria's talking about it. We've mentioned it before, and we will keep talking about that as the time comes. You need to check with the Republican Party county headquarters. They may have training for poll watchers. They may not. Some do, some don't. April made a comment that I wanted to ask you. I don't remember if it was a comment or a question. Hang on, I got to scroll up and find her name because I thought I wrote it down. But, Larry said, yeah, I did write it down. April said she takes a picture of her paper ballot before she puts it in the box. I have tried to do that, and I've been forbidden to have my camera out when I was in Maryland. But Jimmy's going to be a poll watcher for Delaware County, Pennsylvania. That's on the east side of the state. That's awesome. So thank you guys for already stepping up to get involved in that.
Yes, and let me say this, April. Trying to take a picture of your ballot before you put it in the box. I don't know that serves us in any way because you know, they don't assign a ballot to your name. They just count ballots. So you see which ballot of the 1,000 that are voting in your area or in your precinct, which one of those was yours so that you can see whether they didn't do it the way you said. So that's a little, don't worry about being able to do that, April, if you can't. If you want to do it for your own sake, do it. But as far as it being an effective tool as it stands right now, and it may change, but as it stands right now, it really won't be that productive for us.
Awesome.
What else you got?
Yeah, and I'm just going to say to the folks who've come in internationally, I know when we start talking about our election, it's a little different, but I know you care about what's happening here because it does affect your country. So welcome. The first question that came in earlier today was a question about the Supreme Court and the recent decision to limit the size of church gatherings to 50 people in that Nebraska, was it Nebraska or Nevada church? And she was asking, is this going to be true for the Muslims as well? Is this just Christian churches? And was this in any way anticipating the coming caliphate you talked about yesterday? Is that Supreme Court ruling going to hinder what they might want to do under their caliphate? Is that being correct?
Technically, yes. Technically, when they made the ruling to limit the number of people in a church at one time, that should apply to mosques for the Muslims and all the other different kind of faith things around. But I assure you, when they form a caliphate, then it won't matter what our Supreme Court says or does not say. What is a caliphate? The caliphate is when they take a region whether it be in Syria or whether it be in Dearborn, Michigan. It's when they take a geographic area and they claim it to be theirs and independent of any other than theirs. So once they form a caliphate, then you can forget about our Supreme Court having any effect on them, because they will not recognize our Supreme Court. Now, where the Supreme Court will come in on the assumption of the Muslims forming a caliphate somewhere, probably Dearborn, I'm just using that as an example, where the Supreme Court would come into play in that situation is, I'm sure the Supreme Court will be involved in deciding what we can do, or what the president or what anybody can do to bust up the caliphate. You know, can they fire cannons into there? Can they use missiles in there? I'm sure that, you know, if it happens during, say, a Trump watch, you know, he'll bust in there and try to bust it up. And the Democrats will certainly go to the Supreme Court and try to get a ruling to stop him from being able to do anything. So that's where the Supreme Court will come in, and it'll come in upon the time a caliphate is formed. It will come in to determine what we can do to stop it.
Can we cut off power, water, internet, and so on to them, to the caliphate?
In theory, yes. In reality, I don't know. You know, I don't know what will be allowed. That's the catch-22 to what I've always said about if they form a caliphate. The American people are not going, I fear, to cut the power, cut the water, and then all it'll take is, you know, the news media showing pictures of women that are dehydrated and consequently their babies are dying. You know, it won't take much of that until the American people will just not allow cutting off power or cutting off water.
And they don't even have to use current true pictures. All they have to do is have a picture of somebody and claim it is.
That's right.
All right.
And I got a news flash for you. If in that case, that scenario, if that were to come true, then here's the part that'll kill you. If that is the case where they're showing pictures of women, their breasts not developed and their babies suffering the most painful death, you know what? Then the power will be turned back on. But here's the kicker. We'll have to pay for the power. They won't pay for it.
Ugh.
And I know this sounds far-fetched, but I think, folks, if you think about it, it's no more far-fetched than what I have told you will happen to our country if Trump loses, because you're seeing it now. You're seeing some of it now.
Okay, I've got a couple comments worth reading. MW says we're humanitarian, not communist China.
Right.
And Thomas says in London, London leases the Muslims a huge building for a penny a week. That's the minimum the law allows them to charge.
I agree. I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
But what we will have to do here with our caliphate, we're not going to be able to give them a huge building. They're going to demand territory. They're going to demand, you know, a 16 square block or a 30 square block, whatever size
they want
will lay it.
Yeah, they want their own city. Okay, the next question, and folks, I am going in the order that they were received for the most part. unless something comes up that's related to what we're discussing currently. Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx are claiming that we need to now start wearing goggles or face shields. Your response to that, what do you think they're going to do next?
Well, when you start going to that extreme, now I'm not saying that that's not a better way to protect you or to protect your children or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. As a matter of fact, what they probably could have said that's just as significant as that, they might as well have said, and you got to wear, the suit, the environmental suits.
The hazmat suit?
Hazmat suits, right. They might as well say that.
Yeah.
The reality is going to be, most Americans are not going to be able to find or purchase that kind of equipment.
I will say that I saw on Facebook last week or the beginning of this week a face shield advertised on Facebook that just slides onto the brim of a baseball cap, and it was $3.
Mm-hmm.
So most people could afford something like that. But my question is would we be allowed to wear a face shield where you could still see people smile and interact with them, and you've got a little more access to oxygen coming up from underneath? Or are they going to demand a mask plus the face shield to cover your eyes?
Listen, I'm telling you, the little thing that you're talking about, I've seen them. That provides you no more protection, basically, than the mask. It just really doesn't, because it's porous. It can come in under it. It can come in above it. So, that, to me, that $3 can mislead you into believing you've got some level of protection that you really don't.
Well, I have not seen a single face mask that says that it will protect against the coronavirus, because the last I heard, there's like 40,000 viruses that can fit into the space between the threads on a fabric mask.
Oh, Lord.
So,
well, and I don't know. And we could go on till ad nausea talking about what has to be done to make a face mask actually protect you.
yeah, well, the ones that you buy in the store, say right on the side, will not protect you from coronavirus. They all do.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily designed, as I have been instructed, to protect you from catching the virus as much as it is to keep you, if you are a carrier, from giving it to other people.
Now, Judy Mikovits and other doctors have said that you are not, when you've got distance between you and somebody else, the only thing you need to worry about it traveling in the air is if somebody's sneezing or coughing. Otherwise, you're not picking it up.
Right. Now, remember also, folks, this virus is new. It's new. So, probably 6 months from now, what we know to do or what we know about the virus will probably be quite a bit different than what we know today. And you got another problem. This virus is a manufactured virus by China. I say, this is my opinion, agree, disagree, but remember, it's just my opinion. My opinion is that this is the first biological attack on the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe China just accidentally, let it out. I don't believe that at all.
And there are a lot of dead scientists in Wuhan that would back that statement up. And tried to before they died.
So, having said that, we can do a whole show about that even. But the fact that it is man-made, the fact that it was engineered, I would bet, that's my opinion again, my opinion, if I were going to the trouble to create a biological weapon that would be more like, spread like a virus, act like a virus, I would just make sure that, I designed in different things so that people are not able to crack the case. So that's my opinion. I think they've developed it. I think they've used it on us pretty much as a test. They're letting it they're letting it destroy the rest of the world as well. And we're sort of helpless. But one thing President Trump cannot do, he can just flippantly say this is China's virus. I mean, he can make those kind of comments, but he cannot declare that we have been attacked. Because if he does, then you're pushing the envelope to where the American people are going to say, what are you going to do in retaliation to it? And folks, we don't want to get into a battle of nukes because nobody lives at the end of that. So.
Okay. And Mimi, she's the one that got to me before the show. She's asking right now, if China has done this once, what's to stop it from happening again?
I'll say again, what?
If China has done this once, what will stop them from doing it again?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Which is another problem. If, for example, President Trump or the powers that be know that this was a biological weapon used on us by China, but for several reasons, they just must not declare it so, then they're not going to be able to declare it in future things that they sick on us. Just not going to be able to. It would be the first, not only biological weapon used on America, but this may very well lead to the first silent war in the world's history. Silent meaning, we retaliate with some form of biological, and then they retaliate with some form, and then neither one of our countries are able to declare what's really going on.
Well, wasn't that partly why we ended up in Syria? Was because of something biological or chemical?
Yes, yeah. But I can't go into it.
No problem. Okay. I'm going to skip one of your questions, Mimi, since we've asked quite a few. Somebody mentioned Jason yesterday. I did send you the link to it, Larry, and asked you to ask Jason to put you in contact with Judy Mikovits or Mikovits. Somebody has asked. Somebody else in the comments watched that interview yesterday, and is also recommending an introduction or an interaction between the two of you, so that you know a little more about the kinds of things that we've been watching, because she used to work with Dr. Fauci, or she worked at Fort Detrick over 10 years ago, and had quite a run-in with Dr. Fauci at the time, and has told a lot about what he has been doing, because she worked, my understanding is, and my memory isn't perfect, but if I remember correctly, she had worked on some of the viruses, including HIV, that and meds for it, that she thought there was a cheaper, more effective treatment, that they created the problem and then created the solution. And he wanted a patentable treatment that he could earn money himself off of. And anyhow, here we go with a lot of that stuff. So
yeah, here again, I don't think we need to do that. I don't think we need to get into a lot of anecdotal things like that.
Well, it's not anecdotal. It's not just anecdotal, Larry. I mean, she was one of the scientists working on all that in the lab there in Fort Detrick.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
The world, Mary Ellen,
has changed a lot since then.
Has changed 50 times since then. Good heavens, y'all, what we were talking about a year ago no longer applies in many areas, not in the election or the Trump category. Things are just changing that swift, that fast.
Yeah.
And no, I do not know what the riff is between Trump and that Dr. Fauci, or whatever I would call his name. I don't know. I will find out, but as of right now, I don't know what the problem is. But there is a problem, and it's more than Trump disagreeing with Fauci and Fauci saying some things that are contradictory to what Trump has said. It's more than that, but I don't know what it is for sure. And when I do, I'll tell y'all.
All right. Somebody asked, what does China have on the Democrats that they will not vote anything against China to hold them accountable?
They own them. They own them. The Democrats are owned just like, for example, the professional basketball teams. You would be amazed how many of the professional basketball teams in America are technically owned by China. That's why when something came up before about China, you'll remember the basketball players wouldn't come out and say anything ugly about them. I can't remember what that little flare-up was about, but there was a flare-up, and, we needed, or the country needed, the basketball players to come forth and stand up and lead America whatever way, and they wouldn't do it because China owned too much of their franchise.
Probably has a lot to do with how many people are kneeling, too.
Probably does.
Yeah.
There's a rule that I promise y'all you should look at and consider in all measure of things having to do with political positioning. And that is follow the money. And if you can't follow the money to where it is going, at least you could backtrack the money and find out where it came from. But China has an active role in America. In our politics, they own the Democrats. No telling how many Republican congressmen and senators do they own. But you will not get the Democrats coming out full-throated against China. But you see, there's the benefit of President Trump. President Trump's not owned by anybody. He's not. So they're not going to pull his chain. And no, he's not owned by Russia either. He's not. He's truly independent.
Okay, somebody else asked about the chance of Hillary still being pushed forward.
Well, once again, with the Clintons, you should never count them out. As long as there's breath in their bodies, you can't count them out. And it's very possible that as they go into this convention, Democratic convention, it's very possible that just out of the blue, from nowhere, seemingly, Hillary's name is brought up for a vote, and she wins the vote. She's got it. Very possible. If that happens, I assure you, I promise you, you will do your job, and I will stay in her face every step of the way.
Yeah.
And if ever there was a chance where I wish she would become the vice president nominee, it's now. Because just like they found out in the 2016 election, almost half of Trump's votes were people not voting for him, but voting against Hillary.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I thought the September 9th question she needs to ask, I thought that was like Discovery with Judicial Watch.
What?
When Hillary Clinton has to answer questions on September 9th, I thought that was Discovery for Judicial Watch's lawsuits.
It could very well be, but she doesn't have to answer a question.
Yeah, she could still go, I don't remember.
That's right. She will dodge it. So don't think, no matter who it is, it can be the Senate Council Committee thing. It doesn't matter who it is. She's not going to answer questions. At least none that would hurt her or Bill. It's just not going to happen.
Right. Now there's Fauci and Birx, Doctors Fauci and Birx are both on the Clinton and Gates foundations. Doesn't that create a conflict of interest for them to be recommending any kind of treatment for the coronavirus when they are partial owners, patent owners? I don't know what their role is, but they are involved in earning money from the drugs that they recommend, remdesivir, for example. Isn't that a conflict of interest that they would be recommending their own instead of things that other doctors say they have used with 100% success?
I don't know, because I don't know the relationship they have. If they are just serving as an advisory board member, I don't know. But I would almost, hold on 1 second.
Folks, I really appreciate that. When Larry doesn't know, he says he doesn't know. And when he makes a strong statement, it usually means that he has more information behind the scenes that he has access to that we do not have. So,
I'm sorry, that wasn't the call I was waiting for. But anyway, now back to where we were. I just don't know about that. I don't know about their relationship I just have no idea, but I would bet their attorneys back in that time period or whenever it was going on, I assure you their attorneys have probably explored, all of that to the point to where they're functioning or were functioning legally. At least legally.
Or, forgive me, Larry, I'm going to pose another question. Is it possible that because the Democrats think they've wrapped this up so well that they don't care about doing something illegal because they think they got this.
Well, the Democrats don't care about doing something illegal. That has been proven over and over and over. Because they have the one finale clutch answer. Who are you going to call?
Right. Yep, that was my point, exactly.
Who are you going to call? Now, if somebody doesn't show up to a hearing for the Republicans that happened to accidentally be connected to the Clinton administration or to Hillary, nothing happens. However, if the same scenario takes place with the Democrats, whoever that person is will be prosecuted and go into jail. We've seen that happen. Remember, we have gone through for the past 3 years the most explicit, the most proof positive example of duplicity in law, which under our Constitution does not exist or should not exist ever. But we've seen it. We've seen it firsthand, all of us. We've seen time and time again where there's one standard of law against Trump and another against the Democrats. It's there. We've seen it. And we'll see it rear its head again before it's over.
Okay.
What have you got? And then I'm going to let you take it. I do need help, folks, on the drugs that we're having to get refilled now. We had these pack things that came from the hospital, but as they run out, we have to get them refilled. And it's kind of high. And I just need your help. So anybody out there, please. This is not the kind of got to raise $1,000 a day where we were before. But there still are needs here that we don't have the capacity to meet. And so anything you can do, please do it and do it today. We've got 4 scripts at the pharmacy now to pick up, and we don't have anywhere near what it takes to get them out. So one last one, Mary Ellen, what have you got?
Yeah, the Supreme Court did a ruling on the McGirt case discussing tribal sovereignty in eastern Oklahoma. Do you know anything about that, or could you make any comment on what the repercussions of that's going to be going forward?
No, I can't, because that's just a subject matter, an area that is out of my world. I don't deal with that, or I haven't paid attention to that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
If I had to guess, I can only guess this way. Supreme Court ruling may be a good ruling that would be safe towards the Indian rights and property rights, etc., etc. But by the time it actually gets applied, the Indians are going to lose in the end.
That's typically what happens, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. It is.
Yeah.
All right, gang. Mary Ellen, if you don't mind asking them to help, please see if you can get them to help so we can get those scripts picked up.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know how much you need. So I know there's somebody here who has $2 in PayPal, but shoot, if we all do something, it can add up together. So if anybody can do something, folks, it would. We know there's more coming, and I did tell Larry that somebody yesterday talked about a donation coming at the end of the week, but today's not payday for him. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to bug off. Y'all, thank you, and I will see you tomorrow.
Thanks so much, Larry. We're so glad to have you back with us. And folks, I agree with what's been said. Because anytime you hit the like button, does something with the algorithms, which helps grow the channel. It helps keep our broadcast in the feed to more people. Amanda, we'll have to just wait till tomorrow on that one. And I know we've got a couple more things coming in. But Daniel, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we hear all kinds of speculation about that. But, we were told by Larry that, yes, she very much was working from home, even though she was ill. That's what he said last fall and before he got sick in January. So last December, he was talking about it. Folks, I know. I have to tell you, the few people that we had last year who were really large donors have tapped out. There is nothing at all left. The industry that was providing a lot of the funds that Larry was getting last year has completely dried up. And so there are no more royalties coming through to be able to continue doing anything. And believe me, I understand how many of us are just scraping to put food on the table, let alone anything else. And so I get it. But I know, and I'm so thankful. I mean, when he was having to do hyperbaric treatments for, to oxygen for his lungs, that was $400 an hour, and they had a minimum of 4 hours. And, I mean, there were times in the last 3 years where we were putting out $2,500 a day because of some of the things he was doing. Now, part of that was because he was doing a lot of experimental drugs. He was a test case. And I am going to type in Larry's address. It's Larry Nichols, 58 Kensington Drive, Conway, Arkansas, 72034. Sorry, that ended up in 3 different comments, but it's 58 Kensington Drive. So thanks, Thomas. You can only send cash. I'm gonna change out Larry's PayPal account is right here, nicholslive@aol.com. I'm gonna change out the banner. No, I'll just type it. Never mind. In the you can send a text to me. I know there are some people that just don't want to send much cash in the mail. I'm not aware that that's ever been a problem, but I know some of us don't like doing that. So if you text me, I can make other arrangements with you to help. Awesome. Jimmy, I can help arrange that as well. So that is that's fabulous. And thank you so very, very much. If anybody has to do something and can't do it through PayPal and does not want to mail cash, for example, if you're from out of the country, text my phone number. We will work something out. If you are overseas, I'll give you my direct email address, and I have many times worked out alternative arrangements. But Jimmy, I will be able to do that. But one thing you need to know right now, his wife is being the most extremely protective of him with necessity. For crying out loud, the man spent 6 months in medical care, out of the house, hospital, rehab, whatever. I have look, folks, I can't say any more than I know he was in hospital. I know he was in rehab. I think he was in nursing home. I know because of the danger to him and the hospital or wherever he was that they were moving him very frequently and trying to get him in somewhere, knowing the risk to everybody's lives because of attempts on Larry's life. So when we know that I could get in the door, I mean, his brother came to visit him last weekend and was not allowed inside the door. So, when I know that any kind of visit is allowed, then just stay in touch with me, Jimmy, and we'll figure it out, okay? So that's it for right now. I appreciate your prayers as we've done an awful lot for my dad's funeral next week. And just to remind you, we will have no program next Wednesday. Other than that, there will be no change in our schedule. And his time with Jason has changed. So his time with Jason has changed for next Tuesday. So he'll be doing us at the normal time, and then he'll do Jason afterwards. So with that, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your comments. And I am so sorry. I think there were a couple other people that came in after he said no more questions. And I know I missed one of Mimi's. I did have it written down, and I had talked to Larry about it. So I will text you what his answer was. But she had asked something about Pelosi. In some of the talk about Trump doesn't know what he's doing. So, Pelosi wants to take over. And Larry said, remember, Pelosi is third in line, not next in line. So they would have to take both Trump and Pence out. And he has said many times, because Pence has been involved in government for so many decades, that he may be one of them. But, Larry doesn't know for sure. That's typically what happens when you've been in as long as Pence has been in. Chances are that you're not quite who we hope that he is. But he doesn't have any proof of that, and so he doesn't want to say more than that. I will say that Nunes and Jordan, and there are a couple others, Stephanie, can't remember her last name, forgotten it right now, who was, doing questioning with Kavanaugh and so on. We've got some incredible people who are on some of the key committees, like Jim Jordan and Nunes. But even then, they have been in since 2014. So they were elected in 14, 16, 18. They're going into their fourth term. It is very difficult to stay in office more than 2 terms unless they've been able to buy you. Now, thank God for what Jim Jordan did in standing up to Nadler yesterday with Barr. That was phenomenal. So please be praying for Larry's wife. I mean, I can't imagine the terror she must live in, worried about. I know she sanitized her house from top to bottom. She repainted everything. She, inside and out. I mean, that house got a total makeover that his wife did. And I think she did an awful lot of it on her own because of no money, and not sure she wanted anybody else in the house bringing their germs in. So pray for her. They both got the flu when this all started at the end of January. Carrie was sick for a week, and Larry caught it. Now, whether it was just the flu, and they had a virulent form of flu in Conway last January. It was awful. I heard a lot about it from Ellie. So, no, I've stopped doing the conference calls. Right now, all I can think about is I have a commitment to doing this show, especially because Larry's back. And we can't do anything Wednesday because that's the funeral service for my dad, the memorial service. But right now, I'm not, my trip home is not going to, my plan right now is not to lose any more time. I lost one day when I came here to see Dad and say goodbye, and he didn't leave for a few days. So he died last Sunday night. I had checked on him at 8:47, the time here. And then I got a phone call, and when I went back an hour later, he was gone. So he was sleeping peacefully and slipped into heaven. And I have my sisters and I, between the 3 of us, my dad has 12 great-grandchildren in heaven already. And so I know they are having one fabulous time. And I told you yesterday, I'm so sad. They've redone, because he had done everything for his funeral 10 years ago. And so we're having to update and reduce things, and technology's changed and so on. So what his original PowerPoint of slides, where he had photographs and captions, his last one was just a blank screen and the words, "Hi, Mom, I'm home," which I thought was just cute as can be with his sense of humor. So anyway, I'm doing the eulogy, and I'm doing a family memories talk and reading the scripture. So can't lead the whole service, even though I'm clergy now, but I at least get to do that much. So I'm very grateful. And we're doing a lot of compromising and working together to get things taken care of. So I appreciate your prayer. Having been completely alone for 5.5 years, to be around and interacting with people is quite an adjustment for me. So thank you for holding me up in prayer, as well as Larry and his wife. And our president, of course. So we'll be back tomorrow. That's enough yammering by me. So God bless you all. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.